Hello, everyone. My name is Anaïs, and I am the FARM-D Community of Practice Analyst. Welcome to you all to our live talk number 9, which will focus on theory to practice, institutional policies for women's financial inclusion. This live talk is organized and promoted by FARM-D and the Center of Excellence on Gender Smart Solutions. And this session is part of the live talk series, which was created on gender and climate risk finance, and which was initiated since 2020 by FARM-D, the COE, and the Platform for Agricultural Risk Management. And today we will discuss advancing women's financial inclusion through the Women's World Banking Global Blended Learning Program, named Leadership and Diversity Program for Regulators. I will just now give you some details about specifically the agenda. So hopefully you can all see my screen now. So to give you a bit of details, we will start with an introductory session from the Center of Excellence on Gender Smart Solutions by Divine Torkutsa. And then it will be followed by an introduction by Josha Sisnowski, who will present inputs from Access to Insurance Initiative. And then he will give the floor to Elizabeth Ingerfield, who will develop more on Women's World Banking and the Leadership and Diversity Program for Regulators. So after that, we will have our main and most interesting session on confronting challenges from theory to practice, and alumni from the Leadership and Diversity Program for Regulators like Muna Shentufi and Stella Jonah will present their journey developing and implementing the policy they worked on during the program. Then we will open the floor for questions, and particularly on that matter, we highly encourage you to type your questions all along the webinar by using the chat box that you will find on the bottom of your screen, and then the speaker will direct these questions during the dedicated time. After the Q&A, Josha Sisnowski and Divine Torkutsa will provide their concluding remarks. And now, just before starting, I wanted to let you know that this session is recorded and will be available on replay and shared on our website and social media. And I also wanted to share the link, to our FARM-D Community of Practice, which is an interactive space for exchanges on agricultural risk management. So if you want to join us there, you are more than welcome. And now, without further ado, I will leave the floor to you, Divine. Over to you.
Thank you, Anais, and FARM-D colleagues for assisting us in hosting this event. So as mentioned, my name is Divine Torkutsa, and on behalf of the Center of Excellence on Gender Smart Solutions, I welcome everyone to this live talk, and this is part of our collaboration with FARM-D to disseminate information and experiences on gender-responsive strategies and practice. So a bit to the Center of Excellence on Gender Smart Solutions. It is a platform that's committed to advancing gender and socially inclusive climate and disaster risk finance and insurance solutions. So we offer robust knowledge repository from experts in our community of practice, tailored technical guidance, and actively promote capacity development initiatives. In our collaboration with Women's World Banking, we have provided scholarships to participants in the Leadership and Diversity Program. And today we're co-organizing this event to learn from the alumni of the program about the gender-inclusive strategies and policies they are championing. So with that, I would invite you all to engage with us in the chat, share your questions, remarks, experiences. And I would also invite you to explore the Center of Excellence's technical assistance opportunities and reach out to us via email. So I would be dropping the various contact and communication channels in the chat shortly. Thank you very much, and I wish us an insightful session. Thank you.
Over to you, Josha.
I hope I am still audible. Hello, welcome everybody. We are very happy as the Access to Insurance Initiative, on whose behalf I am presenting today, to also be participating in this live talk. The Access to Insurance Initiative, as I recognize some people from the chat already from the participants list, so it's some repetition for you guys. We are the implementation arm of the International Association of Insurance Supervisors, on inclusive insurance. The IIS is the international standard setter for the insurance sector and represents insurance regulators and supervisors of more than 200 jurisdictions worldwide. And as A2I, we're currently exploring a bit more towards the topic of gender, and it's been especially focusing on collecting gender sex disaggregated data on gender. And that's also something I would like to explore a bit in my closing remarks later on, how we can use this data to actually build a bridge towards action to institutionalize change that can come out of that. That is already that for the first start. So I think I can immediately hand over to Elizabeth, who's next.
Elizabeth, sorry, you are on mute.
Sorry, hello, thank you. So firstly, yes, thank you for the collaboration on this session, FARM-D, Centre of Excellence on Gender Smart Solutions, and A2II. Really pleased we're doing this and giving a bit of a platform to some of the work that our programme participants have gone through in the programme. But to give you all a bit of insight and background. So hello, everyone. I am Elizabeth Ingerfield, Leadership and Diversity Manager at Women's World Banking. For those of you that maybe don't know Women's World Banking, a little bit about us. So we are currently in our 46th year of championing inclusive finance for low-income women worldwide. And we do that in a few ways. So through our research, policy and advocacy, our Gender Lens Investment Fund, and of course, our leadership and diversity programs. Our mission is to help low-income women and gain access and participate in the formal financial system. And that drives towards our vision that one day all women will be able to build a secure and prosperous financial future for themselves and for their households. So this brings me to our flagship program. So this is one of the programs that we deliver from Women's World Banking underneath the leadership and diversity area. This is been going since 2019, and we are just finalising our cohort for the 2025 programme. This programme is designed to both support the design of gender inclusive policy, but also work towards building a pipeline of women leaders within those institutions and ministries that join the programme. We have worked with a range of financial regulators, policymakers, supervisors from across the globe. And how it works. So we invite a senior official that submits an application. They can be any gender. We love our male advocates. They then select a high potential woman leader from their institution that they come to the programme and partner together throughout the programme. We take them through and support them in designing, developing and implementing a gender inclusive policy using our inclusive policy framework. Now, alongside this, we also work on a lot of those business skills. Some people call them soft skills. I like to call them power skills, to really successfully drive change. So it's the implementation of policy, but there's so much, the human-centric side to really doing that well. We partner with Oxford University Side Business School, and we deliver a week in person in Oxford. This is also such a great opportunity for the cohort to come together. There is always a wealth of knowledge, experience, skills across our cohorts, and every country is in very different stages. So there's so much to share and learn from each other as well. We get a lot of comments on how much wealth comes from that week. But this is just an overview of the programme as a whole to give you a bit more of an insight. So as you can see, this track here, the yellow track, is the combined course. That's where we go through the design of the policy from conception through to planning, the first steps of planning that implementation. For the high potential woman leader on the grey track, she also goes through a leadership development. So that is developing those skills required to move to that next level. And the idea is that the senior official joining the programme can champion her work through working together on that policy, providing her with a platform to really display her skills. In doing that, creating more women leader role models across the institution. The senior official also receives executive coaching and also some development around some of the skills required at that more senior level, like emotional intelligence, future mapping and scenario planning. So that is the program. Here is just a snapshot of our alumni that have been through the program. So we've got 326 participants, 47 countries across the globe. Our community continues to grow. And I'm very pleased to welcome two of our alumni who are here today, which I'll hand over to in a moment. So we have two participants from our 2024 cohort. And they're going to tell you a little bit about their journey. So as the title of this live talk, going from theory to practice. So taking some of those core skills that we talk about and really sharing with you how they've supported their implementation and where they are with that policy as well. So in a moment, I will hand over to Mona and then Stella. As Anais mentioned before, she will be monitoring the chat function. So please do add your questions, anything that comes up, and there is some time to explore those after this. So firstly, I will hand over to Mona Shentoufi, Head of International Relations at the Supervisory Authority of Insurance and Social Welfare Morocco, also known as ACAPS. Mona specialises in global partnerships, financial inclusion and policy holder protection. Over to you, Mona.
Thanks, Liz. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I'll take just 1 minute to share my screen. Sorry. Okay. Is it okay now? Yes. Thank you. So I'm very happy to be here with you, and thank you for the invitation. And thanks, Liz, for asking me to be here today to share my experience regarding the Leadership and Diversity Program for Regulators launched by the Women's World Banking. So I'm Mona Shentoufi, Head of International Relations at the ACAPS Morocco, so the Supervisory Authority of Insurance and Social Welfare. And with Stella, we were part of the 2024 cohort, which brought together amazing women and men from all over the world to work on policies that will improve the daily life of millions of women. So in my case, with my colleague, we have worked on sex disaggregated data policy, and the aim is to launch it in the Moroccan context. So before I present you in more details the policy we have developed within this program, I would like just to give you some background information about the Moroccan authority. So ACAPS Morocco is responsible for insurance supervision and regulation. We also have a market conduct supervision mandate, among others, such as financial inclusion, financial education, but also the development of the insurance coverage. So last year, we have developed a micro-insurance regulatory framework to enable a wide range of people to access insurance products and to have more resilience and to be able to benefit from the protection that insurance can provide. So this first milestone, the micro-insurance framework, was an important one, but we thought that we should go a little bit further and address a big portion of our population, women, because women make 50% of the Moroccan population. But to do so, we had to think about specific needs, specific risks, and to think of relevant action, we had to obtain data. And that's when we realized that in Morocco, unlike other financial sectors, there were no sex disaggregated data regarding the insurance industry. So the problem or the lack of sex disaggregated data in insurance was confirmed during the early stage of our training within the World Women Bank LDR. So to solve this problem with my colleague, Siham, you can see her photo on the screen, She's sorry she can't make it for today. So with Siham, we have worked on a policy that will aim to collect sex-segregated data, and this collection will be supported by a one-year engagement and awareness program towards the insurance industry to have them on board. But collecting the data is not our only objective. We intend to use this data and its insight to inform our policy-making decisions to address the barriers to women financial inclusion. It will also enable us to track gender gaps in insurance inclusion and provide valuable insights to use it and to understand the specific needs of this big segment of the population. And the data will also help the insurance industry to build a case for targeting women as insurance consumers. So we have been working on a three-step policy. So the first step is to set up internally within the authority a core team that will work on this topic. And this team is composed of people from different departments. So there is the International Relations Department, Market Conduct Supervision Department, Product Design, etc. It's a very multidisciplinary team that will work on this topic because it concerns everyone here within the authority. First action we took was to launch and to conduct a supply side analysis on around 150 insurance contracts to identify what are in these contracts the barriers that women in Morocco may face. It can concerns exclusion in insurance contracts, some guarantees that aren't offered to women, etc., etc. And we also started working on data collection, and here I will mention the FEMA meter tool that Joshua maybe will speak about in more detail after. So this tool was a very useful one because it helped us to gain time because we didn't have to establish templates to collect the data. We used the one provided by A2II, and yeah, it really helped us. And third step was to set up the stakeholder engagement program. So second step of our policy, and we are at this stage of our policy, is to launch the stakeholder outreach and engagement. It will consist of training, workshop, advocacy sessions. So here you can see a photo of a lot of representatives of the insurance industry in Morocco. We had with us the product director, the marketing director. We choose this profile because they are the one working on products. And it was important to let them know how they can change the way they design products and why it is important to have data to help them inform this work. And third step, and we hope to do that in a few weeks, will be the data collection and to set up other actions and future initiatives. And for that, once we will have the data and we will have analyzed it, we will set up a joint team with the industry to work on quick wins, very relevant and innovative solution to have some specific products for women in the Moroccan industry. So I would like also to share that my experience as a high potential woman leader in this program was a very important, I think, a thing that happened to me in these last years, because there were so many things to learn. First thing I learned from a lot of people from around, I think, Elizabeth, maybe you can correct me, I think around 20 countries that were part of the 2024 cohorts. So I learned from people. We had a lot of discussion on the importance of the network. And that's a very important key learning from this program. We also learned a lot from others, from the peers. And if I have an advice, please learn from the others. Do not hesitate to ask them. Third key learnings was the methodology. We had to think about our policy from the perspective of a methodology that we follow throughout all the program. And finally, Elizabeth mentioned that there was a lot of discussion and trainings around the leadership journey. How can I, as a public official, be an agent of change, be a leader that can make a change in this world? Regarding our policy, we may face, as I mentioned, we added the second step of our policy, so it's maybe a little bit early to talk about challenges, but we already are already considering the challenges we may face. The first one is related to a potential lack of stakeholder involvement in our policy. It may happen because our data collection is on a voluntary basis, not on a mandatory basis. So some insurance companies can refuse to collect data. But to tackle this issue, we are counting on our stakeholder engagement and our collaborative approach we are having with the insurance industry. So like I said, there is a one-year program that will embark them on this journey, and we are confident that we may have good support from the insurance industry to collect the data. The second challenge we may face, it's based on first discussion we are having with some insurance regarding some product design, is the necessity for us as an authority to think of innovative solutions and how we can bring the industry to be more innovative and to think about specific targets, maybe about some specific consumer journey, so that they can offer really interesting products. And I'm the end of my presentation, and I would like to share with you all the advice I can give you if you have to run a policy, a project. And to illustrate my advice, I put this beautiful photo of the 2024 cohort because for me it illustrates the network, the fact that we can rely on a community of practices, that there is maybe a solution that someone has, and you just need to ask this person for this solution. There is maybe some data in an authority in Burundi that can be very helpful. I can ask Stella if I want some information, and she will probably help me, because if you are part of a network, it's magic. Network is magic, and that would be my conclusion. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much, Muna. I love that. Networks are magic. Yes, they can be. Please do, everyone, if you have any questions for Muna, do add those to the chat. Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing more. I love how collaborative you've been on those first stages, and now you're moving to the collection, but I think that will serve you well. Thank you for sharing. So I will now move over to our second alumni from the programme. So we also have Stella Jonah here. Stella is the head of supervision at Ghana's National Insurance Commission, a seasoned expert in insurance regulation. She's also a lawyer as well. Thank you, Stella. Over to you.
Thank you, Liz. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Give me a second whilst I share my screen. Great. Am I audible? And can my screen be seen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I present to you our policy, and thank you, Muna, for handing it over to me beautifully. Our policy was on advancing gender diversity and women's participation on the boards of insurance companies. And this was a policy we sought to move on to resolve a gap we had noticed. My presentation will follow this format. I'll give a brief introduction, a summary of our policy, what we expected to take away from that policy, how we progressed over the course of time, the lessons learned, and the next steps. So, as a brief background, research shows, and in various jurisdictions, it's established that policies that empower women, strengthen the economy, and are critical for the lasting progress for development. Unfortunately, in the past couple of years, climate change, COVID-19 has slowed down that progress. And yet still, the slowdown of that progress has led to a disproportionate effect on the lives and livelihoods of women. Now, the World Bank has an index it runs year on year. And for 2023, Ghana gained a score of 75 out of 100 on a range of indicators which relate to women's interactions with the law as they travel through their careers and their lives. Now, 75 out of 100 may look good, but it shows that there's still room for progress. In 2024, the World Bank expanded that scope and measured on 2 levels. Quite apart from the first level that talks about the existence of a legal framework, there was an added layer which speaks about supportive frameworks that will run and implement the legal framework and expect opinions on the status of women's rights. And with that, Ghana's score was not quite at par with the previous score. So this shows that there may be some laws, but implementation and supportive frameworks may not be quite there yet. Now, it's been established also that private sector companies that have the most gender diverse boards boast over 8 times greater annual returns in terms of invested capital within 5 years than less diverse boards. So with this information, we did a review at the Commission. The Supervision Department ran a review in April 2024 last year. And we found out that on the total number of board members within the insurance industry, only 16% were women. Now, for the total number of companies on the market, 1/4 of these companies had no woman on their boards at all. So for each 4 companies, 1 company did not even have a woman on their boards. And then we did a review on managerial positions, and we found out that less than 20% of women were in managerial positions. So with this information and with the policy diagnostic that Women's World Banking ran in April 2024 on women in leadership, it stated that a key way to influence women's advancement in leadership is for policymakers to mandate a minimum percentage of women in strategic leadership, and not just mandate, but publicly monitor progress. So then we sought about to set up a policy summary, which was to have the objective of mitigating the diversity gap in the board representation of reinsurers in Ghana by achieving at least 30% representation of women on these boards in the country. Now, how did we determine to go about this? We were going to mandate that out of the minimum of 7 members on the board of each insurance company, at least 2 should be women. So essentially, you could have 3 women, you could have 4 minimum, 4 women, but at the least there should be 2 on every board of every insurance company. Now, this we sought to use by using our 1/3 rule, which is a rule that cuts across our governance framework. There are other parameters we require companies to meet, and we use the 1/3 rule. Now, the ingenious thing is that as the number of board members increase, you would have to make sure that the quota of women proportionally increase. So what were the expected outcomes? What did we hope to achieve, apart from the obvious, which was to increase the representation of women on boards to provide a diverse outcome on the boards of these companies. We were also expecting that this policy will motivate women in lower to middle management to be achievers and aspire to greater heights in the corporate environment. Also, the policy is expected to provide avenues for women to have a voice in the boardrooms. Once there are women in the boardroom, there will be strategies and policies driving companies to provide women-focused insurance solutions for that woman in the market or that ordinary woman on the street. And so that will be a latent effect of having these women on the board to provide a voice for the rest of the women that need insurance solutions and increase insurance access. So by way of a progress timeline, we started this in Q2, and by God's grace, by Q4, we were virtually done. And we started with internal management and board consultation, which we received. And then we drafted the policy and incorporated into our insurance directive, governance and risk management, which we intended to issue later on in the year. Now, after that, we started our stakeholder consultation, and I must commend the insurance companies. We met all the insurance companies on the market. Each insurance company, we had 3 cohorts at 3 separate training workshops, and we had engagements with them on our vision, our objective, and the benefits they were to receive from having a more gender diverse board. Now, the directive itself, which contained that policy, was approved by the board in Q4 2024, and in that same quarter, we issued a directive to be effective January this year. So as we speak, that directive is in effect. Now, the next steps is we're going to follow through with this implementation and make sure that all companies comply by 2030. And we're also going to monitor progress publicly by making sure that we track the companies that are stepping up to meeting the guideline and ensure that by 2030, we have full compliance. Now, another thing we need to do is to have deepened engagement with the women's associations in the insurance sector. We're privileged to have 2 women's associations in the insurance sector, the Chartered Insurance Ladies Association of Ghana and the Women in Insurance Network Ghana, and I can see several of them are on this call. We seek to have deepened engagement with them, let them know the opportunities that come with this policy, make sure that they are pivoted and positioned in a way to occupy such positions as and when they come up. Now, the directive will be made a non-mandatory condition for now. But for the 2029-2030 licensing year, it will be a prerequisite for operational license. So there were a couple of challenges we came across when we consulted our stakeholders. And we could get, there was some resistance because some stakeholders saw the policy as being a sort of tokenism instead of being merit-based. So a way of companies just ticking the box because the regulator wants 2 women on the boards, and not just because these women need to be on the boards because of their achievements or their results or their experience. And we also face the challenge of a limited pipeline of qualified candidates. Because of that, we staggered the implementation time to 5 years. And we are requiring for 30%, which is 1/3. There were also issues of work-life balance pressures and companies that did not have policies to support women and that were struggling with work-life balance pressures. But these challenges would be resolved by the implementation strategies we have in place. Now, with the LDR learnings we had from Women's World Banking, the key thing that jumped out at us was the importance of your stakeholders. And for us, we noticed that stakeholder consultation, external stakeholder consultation, is very important for securing buy-in. With our engagement with the directors, it helped us receive valuable feedback on improving the policy. In fact, some board directors were so enthusiastic, they were pushing for 50% representation on the board of the insurance companies. And I was quick to say that what we are asking for is the minimum. So if you want 50%, please feel free. And another learning we had was the need for in-house support, the internal stakeholders. the staff, the team, management, because it's critical for receiving practical insights on the feasibility and effectiveness of the policy you want to deliver. And it's also critical for boosting engagement to foster a sense of ownership and value and drive the successful implementation of the policy. So my key takeaway and advice for us all is that your stakeholders are the most important people in the room. And I remember during our sessions with Women's World Banking, there's actually a session or two focused on stakeholder management, and you're supposed to draw up all the stakeholders you can think of from the top all the way down to the bottom and in between, and see how you're going to deal with each stakeholder, identify their interests, and see how your policy is going to serve their purpose. So this is our journey, and I must say we couldn't have come this far without the support of the management and board of the commission. I'd like to recognize the presence of Madam Abiba Zakaria, our Commissioner of Insurance. She was also the first president of one of the women's associations I mentioned. And also, I'd like to acknowledge the presence of Mr. Michael Kofi Ando, who gave us very good support when we started this policy. So thank you very much. Over to you, Liz.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Stella. That was great to hear how far you've come and poised to start that journey of by 2030, having at least a third of women on boards. I love so much of what you said there around the stakeholder engagement, both internally and externally, and how you've used that to really build something that is going to have buy-in and that they feel like they're a part of as well, which is so key. I love the enthusiasm too there. Can't we have 50%? And that you address some of the challenges that we've seen in other countries around that with, the tokenism that you mentioned and looking to solve those challenges. So thank you for sharing that. I will hand over to Anais now for our Q&A. Please do add your questions into the chat. Or I think you can use the raise hand as well, can't they?
Yes, exactly. Thank you very much, Elizabeth. And of course, thank you very much to you, Muna and Stella. We already have one question, but I highly encourage all the participants, if you have any doubt or you want some precision or you want even to share some of your experience, please, you can either type it on the chat or you can raise your virtual hand and I will hand you over the floor. So I think we have our first question directed to you, Muna. Labiba wanted to know what were the kind of specific products which were in Morocco, and was insurance bundled with a financial product in your case? Over to you, Muna.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So in terms of product, we have all types of insurance products in Morocco, life insurance, general insurance. Some insurance products are compulsory, some not. In terms of figures, for example, to give you an idea, we are in Africa the second insurance market. So we kind of have like a very good penetration rate, but there is progress that we can make to develop more in insurance coverage. Regarding bundled insurance, it doesn't exist in Morocco. However, there are some financial products that are linked to insurance products. For example, if someone asks a bank for a loan, the bank will ask this person to provide a property insurance, but it's not compulsory. If my banks ask me to have this property insurance, I can say that I don't want to have one, but they may refuse to give me a loan. So legally speaking, there is no bundling of insurance with other financial services.
Thank you very much. Thank you. There was another question from Zainabu. She mentioned that we're halfway through the United Nations Decade of Family Farming. I think the question is directed to you, Stella. She asked, what is the current situation in Ghana with regard to gender and land tenure and what is the role of women producers in the agri-food sector? If you can provide some inputs. Thank you. Over to you, Stella.
Thank you very much. So in Ghana, in terms of gender and land tenure, the risk is very minimal. A lot of women own lands. In terms of agriculture, there are a lot of women farmers. Most engagements in the agricultural sector are led by women, even though I must say most of this is small scale, smallholder farmers. But in terms of land tenure, land ownership, the risk is minimal. In terms of gender, there's representation there.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I think, Muna, Labiba was specifically mentioning the women-centric product that was mentioned in the presentation. So over to you if you want to.
Thank you. Yes, I can take it. And thank you, Labiba, for your question. So I mentioned that within our policy, we have conducted a supply side analysis of around 150 insurance contracts to identify if there is any women-centric products or guarantees. At this stage, I cannot talk a lot about the result of this analysis, but what I can say is that around 95% of these insurance products are gender neutral. So I cannot say that they are women-centric insurance products.
Okay, thank you very much for the precision. There was also a question from, let me find it again, from Mohammed. He had a question oriented on finance, I think financing research in our countries. I don't know, maybe Mohammed, I don't know if you can precise where you are, in which country you are based, but he was wondering what were the products that could be used to finance research. I don't know if Muna or Stella want to take this question.
I didn't get the question correctly, Anaïs.
He said, my question is oriented on finance to research. What product can match with that? I don't know if, or maybe, okay, so he said that there's, in Senegal, there's a way to self-finance developed by women based on keeping money from two to more people without taxes, and in a kind of touring, the amount is distributed to everybody. How to work on it and see the development. He is from Senegal. If you have any inputs or.
Yeah, that regarding this technique, we have a name for it here in Morocco, but that Mohammed, correct me if I'm wrong, what you are speaking about, it's when women are like 10 women and each one of them put in a regular frequency an amount, and at the end of the month of the period, this money goes to one of these women. Am I right? Yeah, so we currently, during my presentation, I talked about innovative solution to get some specific products that would serve some segment of the population, and this technique is considered by us, and we have also involved international experts that are working with us on how to use this technique, because it has worked on in some other countries. So yeah, this could be for a specific segment of the women's population here in Morocco, something we can work on.
Thank you, Muna. There was another question from Doris. They have how there are any gender-specific insurance products available in the focus countries, so Morocco and Ghana, and if not, what strategies can be implemented to encourage the insurance industry to develop products that will meet the needs of women? maybe I can give the floor firstly to you, Stella.
Thank you. So there are gender-specific insurance products available on our market. Even though we hope there could be more, there are gender-specific insurance products that cater to the needs of women. Most of them center around inclusive insurance solutions, to increase insurance access, to provide customer-centric solutions to the needs of women. So yes, there are. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to complete also with the context of Morocco, Muna?
Yeah, like I said, there aren't so many gender-specific insurance products, but the idea with this policy is to work on this.
Perfect. Thank you both. I think there was another question from Joanna. She's a colleague from PARM. She wanted to ask if, I think to you, Elizabeth, are there some aspects of your work at Women's World Banking that are specific to rural women and or women farmers?
Hi, yes, there are. So throughout the program, all of our participants work on identifying what policy will have the biggest impact. So that's anything from sex disaggregated data to working with rural women or insurance products or women's leadership. So we do have a range of different policies that come out of our program, and we do have quite a few. Rural is definitely one of the topics that quite a few of our participants work on.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I see no more question. We still have more times for the Q&A. So maybe, I think Divine, you also had some question if you want to ask some so that we can leave time for participants if they think of another question to ask to our panelists. I leave you the floor.
Yeah, right. Yeah, sorry, that caught me off guard a bit. But yeah, thanks for the interesting presentations. And I see some learnings for both in terms of the use of data to prepare fit-for-purpose tools or innovations. To Stella, I wanted to ask, so with what you have now, what support systems are going to be put in place to enhance this enabling environment to ensure, there are more or insurance boards get more diverse? Because from what I understand, from now to 29, it's going to be at least left for the insurance companies to try to increase or improve these numbers. But then what are the support systems? Because you also mentioned the pipeline. What was the example you made in terms of capacity in the pipeline to get onto the boards? Are there any strategies in place, for example?
Thank you, Divine. So, like I mentioned previously, we're looking to deepen engagement with women associations we have on the market, increase mentorship and support programs, training, capacity building. Sometimes you realize that for a woman not taking an opportunity is not because she's not qualified, but because she needs to build on her confidence, or she needs to build on knowing what she has. And there's this literature I went through, and it's made a point I resonated with. So it says if there's a job opening and there are 10 things you need to meet, and a woman meets 7, she will not apply because she does not meet the 3. If a man meets 5, he would apply because he meets those 5. Well, I don't know how true it is because I've never been a man, but I have seen opportunities other women have passed up because they didn't take every single box. And sometimes it's good because we're meticulous, we're careful, we like to strike the balance and get things done right. But I think there's also the opportunity for mentorship, opening up avenues for women to, reach out within themselves and push for the heights, break that glass ceiling. And that's what we're serving to do with the deepened engagements with the women associations. Quite apart from that, At our side, within the regulatory space, another support network or framework we're going to put in place is working through our system of relationship managers. So these are staff that have direct engagements with every company on the market, and we're going to be prompting them. I must say that since we started our stakeholder engagements, even before we issued the policy, we have seen companies that need to replace board members, replace them with women. And so just before today, we did a quick check, and the percentages are inching up. They're inching up. And so within us at the regulator side, we're going to provide a support system, prompting the companies, letting them know what they need to do. We also have a couple of educational activities we're going to pitch to management to support, so we can have women-focused development engagements. Thank you.
Nice, thank you. I did have a question for Mona, actually, if you don't mind.
Of course.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more about, so you're at the stage of like analyzing the data, figuring out what, recommendations to make, what products are in that gap. I know you've mentioned you've done some work around that stakeholder engagement. What are your plans for disseminating those recommendations and making sure that they're acted upon?
So once we will have analyzed the data and identified the action that we would like to take, we are considering with the industry and an international organization that can be supporting this work to set up a joint team that will have a mandate and deliverables to work on, and we will be targeting a specific segment. For example, women in Morocco are around 16 million, so we won't be able maybe to address all of them, but we will be working on a specific segment that we will identify together, and like I mentioned, to have like very quick wins and with specific insurance products from our side as a regulator. We will also work on the regulatory adjustment to enable this to happen.
That's great. Thank you, Mona.
Thank you.
Doris added another question on the chat directed to you, Elizabeth. She has some insights on addressing the gap in reaching rural women who have limited knowledge of insurance and varying perspectives on its value, for example, in agriculture. And she wanted, based on your experience, what do you consider the most effective approach to engaging these women and encouraging insurance uptake?
So it's a good question. From what I've seen come through the program and some of the initiatives we've seen rolled out, where they have that focus of reaching the women at the last mile. A lot of what we've seen is around that personal touch. So having, women bank tellers go out to those areas and speak to people directly in their homes. That has been something that we've seen trialed in a few countries and seems to work. Also then creating those, advocates maybe in those villages as well. With insurance, was it particularly in insurance products? Some of the other things we've seen actually from one initiative, they were looking at how do we reach rural women. They wanted to make it as easy as possible. They did some of the financial literacy programs. They had, women going out from the bank to the villages, but then also there was that piece around making it really easy to use. And actually they had to take a step back and look at like the infrastructure to be able to use, mobile and make it as simple as possible to access and use those products as well. So there's a few looking at infrastructure, setting that up, but then also that personal touch, creating local advocates, I think with some of the things we've seen that have worked. I hope that's helpful. Yes, financial literacy sessions, definitely. But even getting, people to come to, you have to go to them first before you pull them into those, if you're doing those sessions, take it to them first to get them interested and really understanding why it's important and how it can help.
Thank you. Over to you, Mona.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on what Elizabeth says, that the financial literacy is very important to access, for rural women to access insurance. But we are here in Morocco working on the rural women segment, and it's not just the problem of financial literacy, but it's also the problem of access. Sometimes there is difficulty for a woman in a rural area to leave her village and to go to somewhere where she can have information about insurance. So we are working on the accessibility of insurance. Sometimes they are aware that there is an insurance product that can help her with her health, her children's health, or maybe agriculture insurance. But sometimes the problem of accessibility, but also cultural barriers.
Yes, thank you, Mona. Very good point. And actually, just to clarify, because I think you clarified what I said a bit better than me, just to clarify, I mentioned women banking agents specifically because if you are going out to them as well, there's social limitations around who can come into the home, who can speak to. So that we've seen has been a real key part of that. Thanks, Mona.
Thank you very much. Thank you also to all the participants for these very interesting questions that are pushing forward the conversation. We are going towards the end of our webinar. So I would like now to pass the floor to Zosia Sisnowski, who would like to present the FEMA Meter tool. So over to you, Zosia.
Thank you very much, Anais, and also many thanks to both Mona and Stella, because I think you already made the perfect case for the data collection that I can very easily build upon now. So let me go ahead and share my screen as well. Okay. I hope my presentation is visible.
Not yet, but it should appear soon.
Okay.
Okay, now I can see it. Hopefully everyone can.
Perfect. So I would like to, as we already touched upon a bit, present the FEMA Meter, which is a tool that HOI has developed for sex disaggregated data collection in the insurance space. So at the beginning of when we started to focus a bit more on gender, we always had this statement that women form the most uninsured population globally, but we could never really find numbers of by how much. And if we don't know it, then how are we actually going to be able to formulate targeted policies against that? There was no comprehensive data set that we could actually find on women's access on insurance, neither on the demand nor on the supply side. And the most reliable data we could find on this comes from the Microinsurance Network's Microinsurance Landscape Survey, now the last one from 23, where only half of the products providers reported actually sex disaggregated data. So from this point, we kind of thought what would be the best starting point, and that would be to start capturing the most common indicators under market access and usage. So we went ahead and kind of structured those by different portfolios and devised input indicators that looks at the number of policyholders, that looks at the number of insured lives, but also looks at the claims that are received, how many claims are actually paid out, what amount are they paid out, and also what claims are rejected. And of course, all of those outputs afterwards would be disaggregated by sex. And the second pillar of this tool would be to not only look at the access and usage to insurance, but also look at the organizational diversity of insurance companies that would be acting in the space. And there we decided to divide this by the different management levels, from board members down to licensed individuals, and focus on the most common indicators for HR, which is the number of employees or agent, but also the hires, the leaves, and the opportunities that people get to either progress internally, but also to expect any trainings or anything similar that would further them in their career. So how do we actually go about this? At the beginning, because as A2I, we focus on insurance supervisors and regulators, stands the decision that somebody actually wants to apply this tool within their jurisdiction. After that, they would be able to download 2 Excel sheets. Maybe I should have mentioned it earlier. It's an Excel-based tool, so it runs really on every computer that has Microsoft on it. So two sheets. One of them goes for the market access indicators I just presented, and the second one for the organizational diversities. And those are being sent out to every relevant insurer within one jurisdiction. And those insurance companies would then, within a given time frame, be able to fill out all the data they have within their own portfolios and within their own organization. And they would receive the first level of inputs immediately. So they would also get an overview, not just the regulators and supervisors, but the companies themselves would get a certain stock take of what's actually going on in their portfolio and their organizational diversity. So ideally, some of them would already see what is going well, what isn't going well, and where they have the first data gaps possibly. Then they would send both of those data sheets back to regulators and supervisors, who then would go ahead to compile all the data they received with a few clicks to actually receive jurisdiction-level sex disaggregate data. And while the leadership clearly lies, the ownership of the process lies, from our perspective, the regulators and supervisors. We would be there and support every step where we can actually do it. We developed a training for this. There's a video that can be shared with insurers. We've just finished translating this training and the tool itself to both French and Spanish. So we would really like to encourage everyone, of course, to go to the website, check out the tool, check out those tutorials to see if this might be something that's good for you. We launched the tool earlier last year in 2024, and we already have the first countries that actually started using the tool, and we have some first general findings on it, which we're not quite as far in the analysis. So I would like to maybe look a bit more in what data is actually available. So the first findings is that the access and usage data for life insurance is actually available on a, to me, very surprisingly reliable level. Whereas the further you go down towards non-life and microinsurance, data and access and usage data really becomes less reliable. And that's the first action point that we really have here, is that this should be improved ideally over the time, that this is the first data gap that can be identified, and that this data collection and reporting should be improved on this part. And then on the organizational diversity, most companies would identify as applying D&I, at least for now. And the results are quite visible on the low level, but however higher you go up in the organizational hierarchies, the less this effect is actually visible, to at least according to the data that the FEMA meter collected so far. So first recommendations that we take out of this, the first one already took ahead, is the data collection needs to be strengthened, and as much as possible, this should be done on a regular level, so you can actually see progress whenever any evidence-based policy is done. You can track the progress of that. You can see if it has the impact that's actually desired. Then we already noticed that it's not just enough to see how many claims were paid out, or if men and women have the similar amount of claims they put to it. In the next step, we would really like to look, or encourage people to look at how the claims process looks like in detail. Are there any differences in the time that it takes if a man or woman starts a claim? That's the first interesting thing that we noticed, that the claim level would be about the same, however, for men slightly higher, both in number and in the claim value. Periodic policy reviews, I already said that, as regular as possible. Hopefully we were able to track some impact of any policies with that. And the last one I actually don't want to talk too much about anymore, because again, Mona and Stella, you've both touched upon that. It's really all about collaboration. And I think that's the first takeaway that I really like to make a point about from the FEMA meter exercise, is that progress requires both the data and the action, and it's been really good to also see that reflected throughout this entire talk, and that programs such as the Women's World Banking Leadership Development program that actually ensure that women have the skills and the networks that were so important and the opportunities to thrive are just as equally important as this like pure data collection that we're trying to do here. So this robust sex disaggregated data really needs to be there together with the action to enable evidence-based policies and measures that are systematic in the end of the day. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you very much, Joshua. I think someone asked if it would be possible to have the links to the trainings and tools. We will send to all the participants a follow-up email with the registration of this webinar, and maybe also we can add some useful links from all of your presentation so that all the participants can maybe go and look it up.
With that, happy to put it in the chat right now.
If you have any useful links now, please do share it on the chat. That's perfect. And with that, I will pass the floor to you, Divine, for the concluding remarks. Thank you.
Well, thank you to everyone. Thanks to first FARM-D and Women's World Bank and A2II for this collaboration, to the alumni who have graced this opportunity to share on the work they're doing. So many learnings for us, and we see there's work in progress. We would hope to sustain these live talks, so perhaps in a year or two, we could come back to hear what lessons or how these strategies have progressed. And thanks to the audience for the active engagement, for enriching the conversation. And yes, we're sure you'll be keen to hear more on what's happening in this space. With that said, I think we will share all the necessary links, and you would receive these informations in an email after. That's it. Thank you all, and I wish you a lovely rest of the day.